I don't know, structure that runs the internet
in Sweden. But what they've done for the international listeners, that they started quite early to have a survey and try to measure and understand Swedish internet behavior.
Yeah,
I think it's almost 10 years. It's more than 10 years.
Yeah, more than 10 years, I think.
More than 10 years. And of course, they released the report, the yearly report on changes in behavior. And now, of course, also with a very much more deeper AI part, right?
More and more AI the last 3 years. Yeah.
So the Swedish Internet Stiftelse or Internet Foundation, or however you say it in English, they released this new report this week, right? What was the content of that?
Well, from the internet side, it's like same as last year.
Same procedure as last time.
Yeah, exactly. So internet usage has gone from 97 to 98% or something. I don't know. So it's not, that part is not that interesting anymore. But like we said, they've added AI the last 3 years, and this year many questions on AI. But the main one for me, at least, is how many Swedes use AI, and in this case, the bar is very low. So the question is, have you used generative AI or generative AI tools sometime during the last 12 months?
12 months.
So, and for example, that could be ChatGPT, Gemini, blah, blah, blah. And the number is 39%. So, which seems to be very low internationally. There's what I found, no really good comparisons when they ask the exact same question, the same time period and all that. But if you look at countries that we usually are ahead of, like Denmark, Norway, Germany, France, we're behind and way behind. And even if you take into account that they asked people from 16 years old and we asked from 18, even if you correct for that, we're still behind. So we seem to be behind in using generative AI.
Yeah. And Denmark, we said, was about...
I think Denmark was 48 or something like that. Yeah.
Did they motivate it somehow, or can we guess of why Sweden is behind?
That's what I've been trying to figure out for the last, 2 years. And I'm not sure that I have many different answers maybe, but one is that we could be fat and happy. So we were number one in the world for a while there in the 1990s, early 2000s when it came to using personal computers and the internet, or broadband internet. And
digitalization in general.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And out of that came Skype, Spotify, and a bunch of these startups that we all know the names of. And so maybe we thought we are good at these kind of things, these kind of changes. We're good at those. But they don't just happen. We have to actually do them. But it also seems like... So I was part of the government's AI commission, and we tried to sort of meet every sort of organization that represented a part of society. So I think it was like 150 different organizations. And the conclusion only after a couple of months of meeting them was that everyone is waiting for something. It's like, what are you waiting for? They weren't sort of against using AI, or anything, but they waited for a go signal from somewhere, and so when they talked to us, they said, "Yeah, we're going to wait for your report." It's like, no, don't wait for our report, just go. Yeah. So hopefully we can do things that are useful, but don't wait for us. And so that's why we delivered the report after almost half the time. Instead of using 8 months, we used 9 or 10 months.
That was it, like November months. Last year, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we had until this last summer, really, but we did that early just because everyone was waiting for us, but now they're waiting for the government, or I don't know what they're waiting for really. But
it's rather unusual or unheard of that you actually deliver a report ahead of time.
Yes, I think it's for Sweden it was the first time in world history where we sort of called them up and said, "Hey, is it okay if we deliver the report early?"
Yeah,
they was like, "You mean later?" No, earlier. It's like, what? That's never happened before, but yeah, I guess that should be okay.
I love that. That's so great.
Yeah. So I don't know why, and also people seem to be afraid of a lot of things. I don't think it helped that Max Tegmark said, what was it, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, in his summer program for 2 million listeners, that in the first 60 seconds he killed the entire humanity. In 20-30 years we're all going to be extinct because of AI. I don't think that helped.
No, I'm really angry with that statement as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I'd love to welcome you here. Really glad to have you, Mathias Sundin, here as a guest in the After Work podcast. And I love what you say on the LinkedIn profile, the angry optimist.
Yes.
That's such an awesome description. But you're the editor-in-chief of Warp News.
Yep.
Right? You're also a famous speaker and been around, I guess, educating a lot of people, been part of the AI commission that we had, and also politically active, right, in different ways, and being part of the Swedish parliament as well.
Yep.
Are you still there?
No, I quit in 2018.
18 years, that many years. Yeah.
You've seen what happened to the country since.
Yeah, exactly. All down since then.
Yes.
But it gives you the perspective of the machinery, so to speak.
Exactly. Yep.
I think that gives you a lot of insight into how things work. So I'd love to hear more, but perhaps you can start by just giving your version of who is really Mathias.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really am an angry optimist. I've learned from many different people like Hans Rosling and Johan Norberg and Steven Pinker that a lot of very important things in the world are heading in the right direction and have been for hundreds of years and for decades. And even now, with a lot of problems around the world, things are also in parallel with that. A lot of things are improving. Education and lesser poverty and greater wealth and many, many, many things are getting better all the time. But then what makes me angry is that we know so little about that. What Hans Rosling showed, that we think it's not that we don't know how much better things are. We think they're constantly getting worse. Most things are getting worse, which is just not true. And that makes me angry that we don't know that. But also, especially that the news media is constantly pumping out that kind of false information, or maybe the information is not always false. It could be correct, but they're only giving one side of it. So
rather opinionated. But why do you think that is? Why do you think media has to always, portray the negative angle on things?
I think there are two main reasons. The first is that it sells. You can that is old knowledge in news media that these kind of headlines sell. But now when they also can measure it much more. Much better. They've seen that angry headlines sell better or get more clicks than other, and that drive. And if you have a clearer opinion from the newspaper, that drives subscribers because you identified with something. Maybe the most successful media company in the world now is New York Times, and they have a very clear profile of who they are. So that kind of sells, but also journalism or journalists are taught that journalism is showing people problems, describing problems, and scrutinizing power, which of course is extremely important in a democracy. But if you only scrutinize it from one direction, you get you become sort of stupid if you believe that. Just the other week, I listened to Anders Borg, the former finance minister in Sweden, and I talked first about AI, and then he came on stage and talked about the world economy. So I said during my talk, after me is Anders Borg, he's going to talk about the world economy, so that's going to be much less optimistic. It's going to be very pessimistic and a lot of bad things going on. And then he went on stage and he said, no, no, it's not. You think there's a lot of problem in the world economy. That's because you read the newspapers. So because I don't dive into economical statistics like he do. So that's why I had my opinion was that the world economy is in trouble, and he who reads all the statistics, he sees that no, of course there are problems somewhere, but much of the things are sort of improving or going in the right direction. So it's very easy to get fooled, even if you're aware of this. And of course, that makes you a bit stupid and makes you think the wrong things and especially take the wrong decisions, investment decisions. For example, if you think the economy is getting worse, you'd make decisions based on that.
But it is, I think, problematic because we can analyze that the discussion becomes one-sided, and media is always on the one side that spins the negative, and ultimately it leads to a very skewed view of the world. So, and is the whole truth or not truth? It doesn't even matter in the end. It's the perception that our AI doesn't work, or it's the perception that the economy is bad.
Yeah,
flavors everything.
Yeah.
And that is problematic. I don't know. What's our solution to that?
Easy question.
No, it's in almost like a fact of life and media, I would say. But
in one way, but on the other hand, it's easier now than ever before to start your own media, whatever the media is. So it's easier, and there's a lot of good in media, not the traditional news media, but if you look at YouTube. Whatever you're interested in, there's some nerdy channel that's super interesting about that. So there's a lot of information out there that's counter to that. But the news media, at least what we hope to do over time from Warp News, where we write fact-based, optimistic news, we want to show news media both that this is a business that you can make money from, and it's also real journalism to report on optimistic, positive things. It's not the things that someone rescued a cat from a tree or whatever. That's fine to report on, but that's not important news. But many really important things happening in AI, for example, that people need to know about, not through a negative filter, but through different versions of that. And also there's a lot of organizations out there that. When they started, the problem they're trying to solve was a big problem. Now it's a much smaller problem, but they have no incentive of saying, okay, the problem we talked about before, it's a tiny problem. You should give money to other organizations who would handle bigger problems. They have no incentives to do that. So they keep saying this is a really big problem. We need to do something about this. And the news media reports that. Instead, they could scrutinize them and say, hey, yeah, it used to be in the 50s, this was a huge problem. Now, is it really? But they never scrutinize organizations from that point of view. And I think that's as important as people claiming something is much better than it is. And
just circle back to who is Mathias, like how did you end up starting Warp News? Or, because you were in Parliament for some time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what's the journey that takes us to Warp?
Yeah, so... in politics, I try to cover tech and tech policy super broadly. Since no one else was interested in that, I had to cover everything from space to AI. And then I met a lot of people, entrepreneurs, scientists, and a bunch of other people that drove this progress in the world. And they talked about their visions and their dreams and what they tried to achieve there. So that made me very, very optimistic, and the knowledge we just talked about from Steven Pinker and others, that made me very optimistic, but the other side made me very angry.
That shaped you a bit.
Yeah, it really did. And I felt, okay, I need to... so after a while, I started complaining a lot about people complaining, and then I realized, am I really making a difference here? So I said, okay, I need to quit politics and try to do something about it. And who should I try to do this with? Well, it's the people I met, the people who are sort of the optimists, the people who are moving things forward. If I could gather some of them in a community and do things together with them, we could probably have an impact on the world. So I started Warp Institute. It's a foundation that is the community for these people. And then we very soon realized, okay, we need to share news in this community of things going on. So we started that, but then we also realized, okay, this could also, hopefully we can make this into a business model that works, that we can show other media that, okay, there's actually money to make here. So that's why we started Warp News then 5 years ago, almost to the day. 5 years ago. So I'm the editor-in-chief of Warp News now and chairman of this.
And you send out newsletters once a week, or how often?
Yep, exactly. We have a free newsletter that comes out once a week and we write on technology, then science and human progress, these and fact-based optimistic news about that.
I'm gonna love actually having proper objective journalism here happening, also bring on the positive side. So kudos for doing that.
Thank you.
But it becomes even an angle where I can even say, like, if I'm going to pay money, I'm so fed up with all the negative news, I'd rather subscribe to the angry optimist.
Yeah.
I think it's a good angle.
Yeah, we have what we call, the newsletter is free, but we also have what we call premium supporters, and they are premium, but they're mostly supporters because they think this is important. So they want other people to read this. So we have some of them. Steven Pinker is one of them, for example, a premium supporter. It was pretty cool when he signed up. I was Steven Pinker, sign up to my newsletter, which makes me very nervous every time I send something out because I know Steven Pinker is going to read it.
But what's the commercial model here, or how do you fund it, or how do you have time to do it?
Yeah, so it's
practically.
And practically it's been really hard. I think running a news media company is hard, even if you're negative. But if you're positive, it's extra hard. so yeah, it has been hard. But so the business model is really the premium supporter membership, but also I'm out there giving talks now, and that of course drives in new subscribers, but also
a revenue stream.
But I think AI will help us scale, not right now. Now it has made things easier. For example, I've created a simple AI bot called Wally who writes the news. The news.
So it's a play on the name Wally.
Exactly, and a play on that and on Walt Disney's sort of and it's a she rewrites news, so it's from press releases or other news articles, which of course AI has been good at for a very long time, 2.5 years or something like that. And so before it took, a simple news article like that took maybe 2 hours for me to write and translate to English and, find an image and publish it and all that. 2 hours, in general. And when I started using Wally, it dropped to maybe 30 minutes. Still some pretty almost always I had to edit something, that wasn't, really good, but now it's down to 10, 15 minutes, and I barely, the editing I do is maybe I feel like, okay, this segment is, it's not bad, but it's, it's too long or whatever. I remove a little bit, things like that. But mostly my thing is now copy pasting stuff, that's what I do. So
in a way, finding what to feed.
Yeah, exactly. I find the news. And she writes the news. I edit it a little bit and copy paste and
so
hit
still
publish.
The editorial in chief that sort of picks the flavor, finds the news and massages down to the theme or the and then using AI in order to craft it into
exactly
a framed.
But it feels like it's pretty close to setting up a feed that the AI can choose from, and the AI does all the copy paste stuff also. Yeah. But also then the next step is that it could translate it to 100 different languages, and also just
based not far away.
No, exactly. It could be done today, but then to a certain cost. But
a certain cost, yeah.
So we can't afford that, today, not the money or the time. But give it, 2 or 3 years, probably can translate it to 100 different languages and publish it. But also use that text to create different kind of videos, reels and longer videos and podcasts and news podcasts and all that in 100 different languages. So for a very little cost, and the quality can't be lower, then no one will read it or look at it.
And if you use some open source model, it could be more or less for free as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it feels like, and since since there's unfortunately no competition for our news, we can just scaling all the news in all the world could be a pretty big thing for us in a couple of years.
And what do you mean there is no competition? You think the optimist angle is actually not so taken? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there's very few of these news. Well, they are out there, but it's almost always in a small local community, or it's in a science newspaper somewhere who a few thousand people read. But we try to make it available to more, or understandable to more people. So there's a few newsletters out there, but there's no real competition.
But am I getting it right then? I mean, like you said it really well before, how to succeed in the media landscape. One recipe is what New York Times are doing. They are creating a very strong identity and profile, and they are sticking to that. Even if it's negative, or call it woke, or call it whatever you want. And you can essentially do the same thing, but from your core mission or your core values.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's really what I'm trying to build now. Now, a lot around me, and sort of the center of this. But over time, I would like Warp News to have sort of its own voice. Like The Economist has a voice. It doesn't matter who writes the article, if it's a human or an AI or whatever. The Economist has a voice. I would like Warp News to have a voice like that, but also, and not just write the news, but also help people understand the news. And also an AI could be really good at that, based on the material we've written, everyone else has written. Okay, if we write about electric vehicles and battery costs, it's one thing to write something, but if here's a new car that costs less than the previous car. Okay, but what has happened over the last 15 years? Well, the battery cost has dropped over 90%. Okay, why? Because of Wright's law, because we're making more new batteries and blah, blah, blah. So help people understand things like that. And sometimes we understand what people want to know and write that. Other times, of course, they could use sort of our AI and Wall-E or whatever to help them
Is Wall-E
understand.
available for everyone, or is it just you using it internally?
Not available to write news, but I created a version that people can chat with, a GPT that people can chat with. So I haven't updated that in a long time, so I don't know if anyone uses it.
Who is your target audience for Warp News?
It's everyone who's sort of curious about the future, and want to be part of creating that future. So yeah.
Cool. Thank you for doing this work and actually having some positive, or more objective, I would say, news being sent out there. That's awesome. And I hope a lot of other news media will copy and be inspired by it.
Yes, me too.
But you do more things. You also are writing a book.
Yeah.
Right? The Fifth Acceleration, is that? Yeah. Can you please let us know more? Why did you choose to start writing this book, and what is it about?
Yes, so it's a book about AI, and my thesis in it is that for humanity has made progress for like 3 million years or something like that, before Homo sapiens, and we've always made progress, but a few times over time we have accelerated. Suddenly, progress has been faster. The first time was probably then like 3 million years ago when we had our first idea, which is fascinating to think about. That there used to be a time there were no ideas. There were instincts, but no one had a thought, an idea,
a conscious.
Exactly.
More instinct based.
Exactly. Yeah. So based on that first idea, we started slowly accelerating. But that was the first forward movement, really, for humans. And then a few times we've accelerated. The last acceleration, or the fourth that we are, at the end of now, what I think was several things that happened combined. You had what we call the Enlightenment. So we had science, the Royal Society in England, and we started to have real science to figure things out. But even more important, we started having a democracy, that we could think freely for the first time, and sort of ideas got rights and we got rights to think. So we had many more ideas, and we could critique them, and we had science to help us polish those ideas.
How many years are this back approximately?
This is like 300-400 years, so in the late 1600s and early 1700s. And out of that came the steam engine, which of course started the industrial revolution. So these three things combined, science, democracy, and industry, really accelerated humanity way more than ever before. Suddenly, wealth and GDP and living standards and everything, suddenly went through the roof. Has been almost flat for millions or hundreds of thousands of years. So, but I think now we are at the end of that and at the start of the fifth acceleration, and that is because of AI, but especially that I see as the core thing that we have achieved is to get machines to understand our language, our human language, and that is a.
Before we go into the fifth too much, you mentioned the fourth, for 300-400 years ago, and we started to have more of a scientific kind of discovery. But if you were to quickly go through the previous three ones, which are they?
So the first one was the first idea, and the second one was like 90,000 years ago, something like that. And that was the first time we started to starting to accumulate ideas, remember some knowledge and add new knowledge on top of that. Because for a while there in Africa, we lived close enough together, so ideas could actually spread, more than every few 100,000 years.
So we didn't have to restart from scratch every time a human was born, so to speak.
Exactly. So for the first time, we got some sort of collective intelligence. It was really bad, and very, very, very fragile. But for the first time, we started to remember a little bit more than we forgot. And that was a big difference. So instead of a few 100,000 years between every sort of step forward, it was just a few thousand years. So still very slow. And that eventually led us to 10,000 years ago that we had enough knowledge to stop moving around and finding food. We could settle down and grow the food and put the cattle in a barn, or keep them close to us. And we became farmers. And of course, then the same thing happened 90,000 years ago. That when you're in one place and you have neighbors, knowledge, you preserve knowledge even better. And also, of course, then a very important thing that happened 90,000 years ago or so was that we sort of first created the human language that we actually could start speaking, which of course is crucial to be able to transfer any knowledge to anyone else. But then when we settled down as farmers, not just that we could speak to each other, we could actually start writing things down, which of course also helps enormously if you should want to remember something. So we could specialize a little bit. So not everyone had to do the exact same thing. Most people did the same thing as farmers, but a few people could do other things and specialize in becoming a little bit better at making shoes or wheels or whatever. And we out of that, we could create cities and civilizations and all of that. But still, progress was very, very slow, much faster than before. And that led us to the point 300-400 years ago in England, where the place where thoughts were freer than anyone else in the world. And in that point, we created these things, science and industry and democracy.
Then people like Newton and Copernicus and whatnot started to actually question some of the fundamental truth that you otherwise believed in, right?
Exactly. But the big thing with what happened in England was that you didn't have a lone genius sitting somewhere and thinking things and reading a few books. They were very rare. So the Royal Society, they said science should be done in open. you should show other people what you've done so they can learn from it and also try doing it themselves. And that was the big breakthrough. And we had geniuses like Newton there, but he was part of a group, and that made the whole difference. That was.
Do we even talk about this as, in some ways, the birth of the more modern scientific method, where we start critiquing each other and stuff like that?
Yeah.
So we've done it before in different ways, but here now it started to get a fundamental open structure.
Yeah.
What we do today in academia, etc.
Exactly. So that was the first time we really started doing that in an organized way. So of course, you can throw whatever idea. I write about, and in one, Newton gave a talk to Royal Society back then when he talked about light and how light is not just one color, it's many colors. Like, wow, Jesus, this is a big breakthrough. It's like, on another meeting, they had a guy who said, if you pour unicorn a powder around the spider can't run away. People are like, yeah, okay, show us. So he poured some powder. I don't know where he got the unicorn from, but he poured some powder and he put a spider there and he ran away immediately. It's like, that didn't work. So it was really all over the place.
The scientific method, highs and lows.
Yes, exactly.
But it's also interesting, with this kind of ad hoc reasoning that people try to achieve all the time. I believe it was Copernicus who first built these kind of binoculars or telescopes, and you can watch the moon. And suddenly you saw there was a common belief that the moon was perfectly spherical, right? Mm-hmm. And then he said, no, it has valleys and some kind of, whatever, it's craters and stuff. And they said, no way. No. So then they came up with this argument, which is, not possible to falsify, which is that there is an invisible layer on top of the moon. Mm-hmm. So it's still spherical, it's just you can't see it. Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny how you
the Earth is flat, and we will kill you.
Yeah, Earth is flat is another interesting. Actually that kind of movement is growing. In some sense,
the flat Earth is back on track.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad if we just speak about that. The science in general and the evolution here, and especially when it comes to AI science. The traditional kind of conference you had and journals you usually published in, it seems like less and less are using them in some sense. You just push something on archive these days, and then you put a blog article on it, and that's it, more or less.
And keep running.
Are you thinking that science could actually be on a downturn in some way?
I don't know. I don't think I know enough about that, but it seems like from whatever I hear that it's sort of over bureaucratized, that it's caught in different models how you get funding for things. So one person who I've interviewed in the book, which is also he's also a premium supporter, David Deutsch. He's a professor at Oxford and sort of the father of quantum computing, and his key paper was physics with a lot of philosophy in it, because to understand the quantum world and quantum computers, you couldn't just use physics. You also have to think from a sort of philosophical perspective, and he liked that. He's a big fan of Karl Popper, and so he used both those sort of physics and philosophy, and he put that in a paper, and that was the foundation for quantum computing. And he says there's no way that paper would have got accepted today. It almost didn't get accepted then. It was really, really close. He sent in a similar paper a few years earlier that was rejected, and then he sent in this. There was accepted, but it was just because of one guy on the committee. So he said, "There's no way that's going to, good, because it's not a physics paper only." So and get funding for that kind of thing, and you have to, I don't know, follow the trends and all that. But that's sort of an outside perspective.
And I'm biting my tongue here. I have a lot of thoughts about quantum computing.
But let's get back to the book.
Yeah.
Can we dissect the fifth? Now we understood the journey up to the fifth acceleration, and you started. What are the components that makes up the fifth acceleration?
Yeah, so if you think how important human language has been for humans then, and I asked Steven Pinker about that in the book, so what would humanity be without human language, the kind of language we have? He said, yeah, we will basically be chimps. That's what we would be. So, and now we can use that language to talk with the computers, and they can talk with us. And that makes suddenly AI then, or these AI tools available for everyone, at least everyone with an internet connection. It's like 6 billion people, which is a big thing in itself. But what I think happens then when you use these tools is that you unleash a lot of creativity and potential that is sort of stuck here, or that you have to use. I suck at music. I can't play an instrument. I can't sing anything. But suddenly I can make music, and now pretty good music with Sunu 5.0, and that hasn't changed the world yet. But it unleashes a little bit of creativity in my head, and I can suddenly now have music. When I give talks, I can create songs about the company I give a talk for, and people laugh and think it's fun, and you know, so and that's a tiny thing. But when these small things and sometimes bigger things happen in billions of heads, and you unleash this creativity. That's going to unleash a massive wave of creativity and potential. You're going to come up with new things, and you and me, and especially when these new things meet and converge and create something entirely new, that's when the real change happens.
So zooming out here, instead of going down the nitty-gritty, we look at the super trends, so to speak, or the super waves, and the argument is then that we are releasing the next wave of creativity, because if you think about it, all those waves are waves of creativity in different ways.
Yep.
Or learning, or collective learning, and collective learning leading to collective creativity. And now we have taken this, we are looking at an inflection point where we can now do this with machine empowered.
Exactly. So if you look at the previous accelerations, all of them were really that we spread ideas more and better. For every acceleration, we came to a point where suddenly we can spread more ideas, learn more things, have a stronger collective intelligence. And now I think when the breakthrough when machines really understanding our language, so we can express our thoughts not through a programming language or some other type of language.
Which is limiting how many can talk with machines.
Exactly. How you talk and how many who can talk with them. Suddenly I can do that. I can't code or program anything. Suddenly I can do that. Or get the machine to do things that used to need programming. So all of that, so the same thing that happened 300-400 years ago is happening now. We're getting way more ideas, way better ideas, more, we can do more things with the ideas. It's much easier. And that's, I think, with Lovable, who went from 0 to $100 million in annual revenue in 8 months. What they did was that the interface was language. You put the interface language, and behind that you put some tool that can create or build apps. You could do that with ChatGPT, or before that you could hire a programmer or learn to program and create apps. So it shouldn't be that big of a difference, but it is. Just having language as the interface for the user makes an enormous difference, because it's so much easier to unleash your creativity. And when this happens for billions of people, that would accelerate all of humanity.
And now you're pushing me to become the angry optimist, because sometimes aren't we stuck in nitty-gritty fucking bullshit conversations?
Yes.
And we are missing the big picture. We're
Exactly.
missing the picture totally. That, regardless of how fast we get to AGI, regardless of what bumps in the road now, it's a fundamental pivotal moment potentially. And it has nothing to do with exactly when the techniques this and that, but maybe about this. Is that a core essence?
Exactly. So then you have, of course, one can debate the limits of LLMs and how much data is going to be needed, how much data is available, and all these things. Have we run into a wall or not? Of course, we can discuss that. But that's not the core thing. The core thing is the breakthrough here. So even if LMMs runs into a wall, we will, based on this discovery or this breakthrough of understanding with language, we will move past that. It might take a few years or whatever. That doesn't matter.
I get so fucking annoyed when people can't see that. Sorry, my language. When people can't see through that, but get stuck in the nitty-gritty.
Yes.
And only see problems.
Exactly. And especially when they do that, it's like, this is a problem. Yes, it can't be solved. It's a wall here. It's like, there's no fucking wall here. And if there is a wall here, we will go right through it, or we will go past it or under it. That's what we do as humans. It might take a while, but constantly thinking that this is unsolvable. No, it's not. It's not. And especially when you have a breakthrough in the background that is so big, there's suddenly way more people who can suddenly, or not suddenly, but over time can actually also start developing the models themselves. It's not just the people who have done that in the past. We're adding tens of thousands of new people who can think of this in different ways than the people who created this in the first place. So they're going to come up with new ways to do this. So I think it's important to zoom out.
I get your point.
But let me just add this question. But the fifth acceleration then, I guess in some way it's about accelerating humans.
Yeah.
Still. Could it be a point where it's not about humans anymore and we still have a development of the society that is beyond humans? Or is that something else than the fifth acceleration?
I think that is the sixth, maybe.
Okay.
But of course, we're in a way transitioning over to that. But I think, we're going to be more and more intertwined with technology. If you think about the phone, it's always with us. It's not, it's not stuck to our bodies, but almost. So technology is very, very close to us all the time. And I think when we move forward, if we get to AGI and even better AI, we're going to connect with that in different ways, our brains or whatever way we figure out. So we're going to be really connected. But also it's sort of that we've, for the first time, we've also sort of created an intelligence that is outside of our brains. And that's that kind of intelligence you can spray it. It's sort of like a spray. We can spray it on ourselves to become more intelligent and do more things, but we can also spray it on dead things, and suddenly they turn smart, or at least a little bit smart, or alive in some sense. Not alive in the sense we are alive, but from completely dead to having some sort of smartness or intelligence, and can talk to each other also, of course.
And if I may get a bit philosophical here, I think it was Mark Andreasen that said something like this, but I think you mentioned in the beginning that, of course, humans before in first or second acceleration don't start from the scratch all the time. They can actually learn and continue to build up this kind of community, and in that way have some collective society or knowledge that they have. But I think what he said was more or less that, of course, we as humans now do not have to start from scratch when we are born, but AI have a very different approach. They can actually literally copy themselves infinitely and never start from scratch, like humans still have to.
Yeah,
right?
When we're born. Yeah.
Yes. So if a new AI is born, you can simply digitally copy it very, very easily and create many copies of it, and it never has to start from scratch ever again. Would that be the 60th acceleration then, perhaps, or what do you think?
Yes, something like that. Or when, at least when we are, I think whenever that happens, we are going to be connected to that in some sense. It's not going to be humans here and machines here. We're going to be connected. We are already, not just through smartphones and the internet, we are sort of connected, even if we're not physically connected, but we are. But then also maybe physically connected through, we'll figure out to run the computation that runs in our head. We can probably figure out how to run that on other hardware if that's how it works. But maybe it works that way, so we could run our software on other hardware or run other software in our heads. Merge in that way with technology. Maybe even without drilling holes in the head or whatever. So I think we're not gonna. Some people might want to go a different path, but I don't think so. It feels dramatic when you think about it. Oh shit, we're going to really merge with AI or merge with machines, but when
we already have it.
Yeah, exactly. We already have, and it's not dramatic, and it's not going to be more. It's dramatic when you think about it, but not when it happens.
Isn't Elon Musk? I have to throw in some quotes from him, every time. But anyway, I think he speaks about the 3 layers here. One being that humans have I think he calls it a limbic system. The instincts that we had from the start as Homo sapiens. But then we got more into the cerebral cortex that we have in the. At least we as humans, perhaps not all animals have it, but we as humans have rather strong cortex, which allows us to consciously reason about things. But in practice today, we already have this tertiary layer, which is all the laptops and the mobile phones that we can quickly get the data from Wikipedia or from current LLMs that we do have. So in reality, we have 3 layers already and are cyborg, more or less.
Yeah.
In some form, people forget that we are cyborg as long as we carry our phone with us, in the simplest form, maybe.
Yeah.
And what we're now looking at is, how can we increase the input-output speed and stuff like this.
Exactly, and Elon often talks about the limiting factor is the thumbs that we write with,
the bit rate you can get.
Exactly. So and that's true, but with using our and now we can actually speak to the computers.
That's a high bit rate.
Exactly, much higher, and we can't do that all the time. But it adds it at least makes it faster. But of course, if we could connect it, it would be
never as fast as computer could communicate.
Yeah.
They could communicate so much
exactly
faster.
And that's why I think that's the 6th acceleration.
Yeah, when you get the full-on consciousness, computer to computer, then you get to the next level of speed on this acceleration of creativity.
Yeah,
that's an interesting definition, actually. Yeah. So when it's a pure computer to computer consciousness and creativity unleashed, that maybe is a way of looking at the 6th. But I need to ask, why did you have to write this book? What compelled you? Because it's an undertaking, right? What was your mental process, and what did you want to achieve? What's your goal with the book? All this.
Yeah. First of all, I'm sort of writing is my skill. That's what I do best, and that's what I enjoy most. So I enjoy writing things. But writing a book is what's so. There's many things that are really good with writing a book. First, you have to research a lot, so you learn a lot. Then you have to, or you interview a lot of people, so you learn from that. But then you have to write down your thoughts, and your thoughts develop a lot when you have to write them down, and especially when you have to write them down, not just a few paragraphs, but several pages of something. And I've discovered at least a couple of times ideas when I write them down and I try to expand them. It's like, no, this is it sounded good in my head, but
it's too thin.
I can't get this to work. It's not a good idea here. This is a bad explanation. So scratch that. But you have to organize your thoughts and also really try to think how does other people see this? The things that I understand that other people don't understand or see it from a different perspective. That's very, very, very useful.
But are you describing now even, because I can even relate to that okay, I almost want to write a book and I don't give a shit if anyone else reads it, because this is my thought process, or I'm exploding with my thoughts and getting it down on paper and organizing it is a way of controlling or sorting it.
Yeah.
So this is one angle you're talking about, but what's the external angle? What's the mission with the book? Or did you have a mission, or is it more, I need to write this book to get this?
Yeah. No, I want people to read it.
Yeah.
So
but you don't have to.
Yeah, because I think my main mission with the book is that I want the people to read it, because since I think we're heading into a new era for humanity, then we're going to need a lot of pioneers in that era. And I want to help people understand that this is a big change. So you should prepare that a new era is coming. But more important, that you could really be part of that era. You don't have to be just a traveler. You can really be a leader in this. And it's not just, and many people think, oh, it's AI, so I can't do anything with AI. I don't know how to code. I don't know anything about AI. So no, if that's the case, you should not go into trying to develop new AI models. But that's not the only thing going on. That's just James Watt and the steam engine. That wasn't the Industrial Revolution. That was the start of it. But James Watt wasn't the one who had made the most money, for example. It was the people who used the steam engine. And since language is the user interface now, every human can use these AI tools to do things. So you could be a pioneer in that way. You can be the lovable of 1,000 different things and many, many other things. But also, I think there's a sort of a third category of pioneers and new leaders that are needed. Because if we look at the Enlightenment and the Industrial Revolution, that really changed society, how society works. The steam engine, when we put that into factories, people moved from farms to working in factories. That was better than the farms, or at least more reliable. But after a while, they realized, okay, there's some really shitty terms here. It's really dangerous and low pay and everything. Okay, we need to organize. We can organize, and since we have freedom of speech, we can complain about things, and we can form unions, and and we're stronger together. And based on that, you need new ideologies. You have liberalism, but you have communism and socialism and conservatism and all that. And that was created in this era with people who didn't know anything about steam engines or science or whatever. So we're going to be needing these kind of people also, not just ideologues or but new kind of leaders in this society. So I try to show people in the book that this is a big, broad change, and your opportunity to be part of and be pioneered is bigger than ever before. So if you want to, you really should.
I really love this analogy, because not everybody needed to be able to build a steam engine, but what happened in that era created a lot of different debate and different discussions and formed new jobs or new ideologies. And you can do exactly the same parallel here.
Yeah.
Not everybody needs to be AI engineers or data scientists. Yep. But you can contribute in terms of building the new society for that is relevant for the fifth acceleration.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I've interviewed a lot of different people for the book, but also trying to, help the reader figure out their own role in this. I can think of their role, so they have to do that. And also, I tell people that you are truly unique in this, because only you, even if we're similar to other people, it's only you that have your experiences and your knowledge, and that's only you. And if you, what I think is the key component here is to mixing your human intelligence with the artificial intelligence. If you mix that, using you as a human with the AI, you get something unique out of that, and that's for everyone. If you're good at that, something unique will come out of that, whatever that is, and that can only be you. You can't do Anders, you can try, but only he has his experiences.
Do you have any thoughts? I know I do, but do you have any thoughts about what the differences are between AI and humans in terms of what AI is good at and what potentially humans are good at and AI is not good at, so to speak? Do you have any thoughts about that? Otherwise, I can give you an intro of my thinking.
Yeah, go ahead first.
The way I'd like to phrase it is to use the OpenAI's pyramid or path to AGI, and they basically divide it into 5 levels. And the first level is basically conversational, and then you have reasoning, and then autonomous agent, and then you have innovative, and then finally organizational capabilities. And then the claim is, at least for me, that AI is today better than humans on the first layer, meaning just working with a large amount of data. taking that together, summarizing it, even writing it, right? So from a language almost point of view, they are actually far superior to us. Then when it comes to reasoning, of course, we are trying to add reasoning to AI, but I would say humans still are significantly better in doing more in-depth reasoning. And I think even more so when it comes to actually taking actions. We can help an AI to take actions by writing MCP servers and doing the integration for it. But you as human don't need that. But we still need to help the AI a lot if it should take actions. So it is still significantly inferior to humans and even more so for level 4 and 5. But still, AI is improving all the time and slowly, coming higher up in this pyramid. And humans then should move higher up in this as well. But I think a few people actually speak about, what AI is bad at. And I think you can't simply say AI is better than humans or vice versa. You have to differentiate it a bit more nuanced. Right? Cool.
I haven't thought about it that way, but I've thought about since there's a lot of claims that AI will replace humans in different ways, from jobs to everything eventually, and then kill us off. But so one thing that AI is bad at is being human. I'm interested in you because you are human. Even if you were a Westworld AI that looked exactly like you and talked like you and everything, as soon as I know that you're not human, that's a difference for me, because I'm interested in you because you're a human. Yeah. That doesn't mean I could enjoy AI music or whatever, or a lot of AI stuff, or have some sort of relationship with a robot, or absolutely. But I think we're always going to be interested in humans because they're humans.
It's like playing chess. We know computers are much better in playing chess, but we still watch humans play chess.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. That's one of the examples in the book that we know that the chess program I have in my phone beats the best human players that out there. Yeah. But still, I want to play chess. I don't want to see, or I might want to see, two AIs play chess. But I'm much more interested in humans playing chess. Yeah. So even though computers have completely outcompeted us in chess in every way, chess is more popular than ever before. Right. And the chess players are better than ever before because, of course, they can compete against much better opponents that can teach them how to play. So that's why I don't think, AI or machines are never going to replace us. We're always going to be interested in other humans.
But it's a very interesting topic. Chess is probably more popular than ever, and it should die out, because what's the purpose of playing chess?
Exactly.
And what is the purpose of watching?
Magnus Carlsen sucks at chess compared to all the computers.
Well, and just look at that on YouTube, or look at how much we even see chess on television now that you didn't see in normal television 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think that puts a finger on what you said.
Yeah.
It's not good at being human, and we are interested in humans.
Yeah.
So that won't go away.
That won't go away. We've had a number of robots on Mars. That's great. It's nothing even compared to the first human setting foot on Mars. Yeah. So, and that's, I think, going to remain over time. That doesn't mean that AI will replace, of course, both jobs and tasks and many things, and sometimes that will hurt people, of course. But overall, I think no matter how good the AI is, first, we're going to be connected to that, so we're also going to level up. But even just the dumb meat here, we're going to be interested in that, because that's us, I think.
Before we move away from the book, I have a couple of nerdy questions, and it's almost for my own interest, but I think it's interesting anyway. I mean, like, what was your thought process on structuring the book, or how, so it's a combination of selling the book on what can I read in the book, but I'm more interested in your thought process or headaches to string it together. How were you thinking? What was your process from the potential of me or someone listening, how to write the book or how to structure it, and just learning from your experience?
Yeah, I sort of had the basic structure, or the basic idea of the fifth acceleration, or I didn't call it. The title came after a while when I wrote about this, these accelerations, and but it sort of had the basic theory there. I had a basic theory, and I had that for many years, that it's really ideas and sort of freedom of ideas that drive progress, and now I see that in AI. So I had a basic structure, and I always love when what I love about technology is that it decentralizes power. So that's sort of my driving.
But that's a discussion on its own. That's a deeper AI divide discussion.
I add that to the backlist.
Yeah, but continue, please continue.
So and I saw, okay, this is a technology that gives people more power than any other technology out there. So I wanted to show people, okay, a big change is coming. How can you be part of that? But that was sort of the idea. Then to get all of this together, and especially when you interview people, you run into the problem that they say very interesting things, but after a while you realize it doesn't fit into my book. It's very, very interesting, but if I write it here, people are like, why the hell is this here?
And was the format of having an interview-based book or weaving interviews, that was from the get-go how you wanted to write it?
Yes, because
that's a narrative strategy.
Yeah, because I also know a lot of very interesting people that have interesting thoughts from different perspectives. So I really wanted to, but then I didn't want to write an interview book that here's an interview with Steven Pinker, here's an interview with Börje Ekholm, because that's very boring. So I wanted to weave that into a narrative of so that was the tricky part. And at least my writing, some writers are like, they write a synopsis and they follow that, boom, 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 and they just write it out. I can't do that. I had an idea of the book, and then really when I had written the first time, that's where I saw, okay, this doesn't fit here, this shouldn't be moved here, this doesn't go into the book at all. And I had, there's this, for writers, there's a thing called kill your darlings, really. It's like, and there was a scene in the book that I had, when I sent it to the publisher the first time, there was a key scene in the book that I had to cut. And I love that scene. I was like, I want to write a book just about that, but, it doesn't fit into the book, so I had to remove it. So it's like, and it hurts. It's just there. I love it, and no one has read it.
So this was an iterative process, and it was how many versions until you were sort of happy?
Many. Of the first chapters, I have I think they're up to 15, the 15th version, but a few of them are 3 or 4 versions, and then there's smaller changes to them. But I also had, of course, great help from AI. I really try to do what I preach here. So not have AI write the book for me, that would be not very interesting for me, at least. But really help me write a better book. Really try to mix my intelligence with it. So I created I have a human editor who's really good, but he's a human, so he's not with me all the time. And I can't tell him can you give me 50 ideas for a title? It's like, fuck you, here's 4. So, but an AI doesn't complain like that. So, but the problem with the large language models when you want feedback is that they're so polite. So everything I fed it was like, yeah, this is really good. And first I was like, yeah, that's true. But then I realized, okay, they can't be true for everything here. So I had to tell it, okay, be more critical. You should be more critical. And it became a little bit more critical. But as soon as I said something back, it was immediately like, no, oh yeah, that's good, that's perfect. Yeah, you're right, you're absolutely right. And I was like, this is not helping. So eventually the sort of prompt that made it really useful was that I said, you should be the Steve Jobs of book editors. Super rude. Don't think about my feelings. Your task here is to sort of squeeze the best book out of me. And then it became really, really fucking rude.
I love how if you give it a personality, it works better.
Yeah. So since then I'm constantly arguing with it. And it's so bizarre because it's a machine, and it's a machine that I've told to be rude, and I constantly get pissed. It's really weird. But it has been very helpful.
Yes, cool.
It's time for AI News, brought to you by AIAW Podcast.
Yes, so we usually do this kind of break in the middle of the podcast to just reflect a bit on the latest AI news. And we try to keep it short, but we usually fail. I speak too long about the news. And when having an expert here in the news field, I'm sure it will prolong for a long time. But let's start. Do you have, Mathias, some news that you'd like to discuss?
Yes. Let's see if I can find it. I turned off internet. Smart.
Otherwise, we can start and you can...
Yeah, I think I sort of remember it. It's on... I wrote about it, or Wally wrote about it recently on Warp News. It's how we... I've written several news about this in the past, but it's sort of how we were using AI, but AI and algorithms and computers to understand animal language or animals' languages. And there are many different science projects out there. I think they come the furthest with whales that they've seen. They seem to have some structures in their language that reminds of human language, or part of human language. So, but what I think is so fascinating is that we're sort of approaching a point where we actually going to understand animals, what they say, what they mean, and be able to communicate with them in a way.
Do they
that
mention some specific animal, or?
The whales I've heard.
Whales, but also different kind of birds and squids. That how they use their arms to communicate. I don't remember now exactly, but if they raise two arms, that
I
means
think I read
something.
your article on this.
Yeah, okay.
Because I was going to quote something, and no, I'm quoting you.
So, but I
I need to go.
Okay. Yes.
So of course it's sort of basic machine learning in this, that we have, so we can collect a lot of data and help use AI to analyze that. But over time it feels like, okay, we might be there in a few years where we can really understand what they mean.
Wouldn't it be amazing if you could speak to your dog or something?
Exactly,
right? I would love that.
Exactly. That's what fascinates me so much, is like when we get there, that we could actually have a much deeper understanding of each other then, because we will find ways of helping them understand us. And what would that do to eating meat, for example? If you can actually talk to the cow, it's even harder to kill it. A lot of repercussions down the line there, but I think that's fascinating.
So we just put in the future into ChatGPT or Gemini or something and say translate to dog language.
Yeah.
And then
it barks or whatever. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool stuff. Cool. And this week I think has been rather heavy in terms of different AI news compared to last week that was a bit poorer. But let me choose one that I think you will like as well, because it has a bit of the creativity to do as well. And then Anthropic launched the new Claude 4.5, which, normally is better than anything else in different things. And of course, Claude is really good in programming, and it's better than ever on Swebench verified and whatnot. So that's cool, and it's great. And all the models are continuing to improve faster and faster. Great. But they also, just to give some stats, they have, computer use is one of the things which actually enables a computer to take actions more properly. Instead of having, proper APIs that is pre-built in a manual way, they can actually start to use keyboard and mouse in different ways, and then have a computer use or browser use that is actually letting it to take action. It's still really hard, and humans are still, of course, better, but it's getting better and better. And at some point, you can just unleash your AI onto your computer, and it can, navigate the different windows and do whatever a human can. So it's getting better there as well. and of course math, etc. And they also, coding is supposed to be Claude's favorite thing, and it's amazing in coding. I'm not sure if you tried using. I guess you used Lovable at least, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah.
And also, one of the things it's adding is the ability to create like PowerPoints or Excel files. It's surprising that hasn't happened earlier. I know Microsoft also, spoke about Vibe working now, and they can inside Excel or PowerPoint also just ask it to create slides and whatnot. So I think all the PowerPoint engineers out there, they will soon get very relieved. So that's really cool to say. But I think one thing that you will like is they had a new feature called Claude Imagine.
Okay.
Now, this is still a preview and only available. I haven't been able to try it myself, but what it enabled was basically it does coding in real time. So meaning you start off saying, build a calculator, and then it creates like an interface for it, but not without the functionality underneath. And then you press some of the buttons. So you press 2 and 8 and then plus or something. And then while you press the plus button, it then generates a code.
Oh, okay.
And then as you continue to iterate, it's just building the code base more and more in real time. It's a completely new idea of how software will work in the future.
Right.
Where it just continuously adapt itself. So it's on demand.
So if someone never have tried to, you have some, you have a user that's, okay, I want to do this. Yeah. And they try to do that. And no one has thought of that or programmed that or, but then it could do that for that user. Wow.
And you don't even need to prompt it in some way. So
right.
You just use a user interface and it continuously just add the functionality while you're using it. I mean, I remember Sam Altman spoke about on-demand software at some point, but then he simply said, I think this is more extreme than that. So on-demand software is more like, if you need to have some software to do something for you here and now, then you just ask Lovable or Cursor or Replit or something and tell, please write it software, and then you use it once and then you throw it away. Like previous software engineering is you build something for months or years, and then you let someone use it for years and years, and it stays the same, and you perhaps improve it slightly, but still is static in some sense. But this is on-demand software is something where you just build something for here and now and then throw it away. Right?
Wow.
It doesn't exist. But this is even more extreme, I would say. This is not that you ask it to build something.
Right, exactly.
It's real-time
coding. It understands what the user wants and builds
in real time. And it's just continuously changing all the time. So I think this is even hard to grasp.
Yeah.
But imagine that point where software is a constantly dynamic movement.
Right.
Where it just adapts all the time, and without you having to prompt it in any way, right?
Because I'm part of a company that we're developing AI tools for schools, first for teachers and other school staff, then eventually for students. But one of the things is of course we like every project like that you try to understand what does the user want and how are we gonna when they start using it, how are we gonna figure out what they want and fix that? Of course for every project like this. But in this case, then they could say, "I want to use it for this," and
it's a completely different type of software.
Yeah,
right?
Wow.
But I think that could be the future. Software will not be the static thing. It's something that constantly understand what you want and just do it. Right?
It's amazing.
What was the background to that story?
It was Claude 4.5 Sonnet.
The Sonnet story here, and now it went 30 hours and beyond.
Yeah, that's another thing. Of course, it's really good in doing agentic tasks as well, and can write 30 hours of.
But you took the deeper dimension of what.
They released another thing called Claude Imagine.
I think it's Claude Imagine. Okay.
That is what we spoke about, and I think it's really amazing. It really tells what the future will be in terms of software. Software will be such a different thing in the future.
But this is why we get back to the fifth acceleration, even that we are unleashing creativity.
Yeah.
And we are still stuck in very old world models in understanding right now what it can do and what it should do. So we are thinking from an old mental model and framing it that way.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
as soon as the creativity is unleashed, we get to Sonnet Imagine, and we are getting to, oh my God, this is a completely new coding paradigm again. So
that's what one thing I love so much about being alive right now and being part of this. I'm so grateful that I'm part of this, because I've never in my life been so often mind blown. There's a few times in life when it comes to technology that you sort of, I remember the first time I used Google. You came from the Alta Vista world and you Google and it's like, oh shit, it found it. And it's like, okay, let's try this. Oh, it found that also. And you're like, this is and then Spotify, you had downloaded all this music and it's like, it's always crap. And it's like, and then type this in and it's a famous song and it found it immediately. And it's like, wow, this is amazing. Do this. And it found it. It's like, and now this happens almost every week. It's like, wow.
And it's almost we're getting fatigue to mind blown.
Yeah, exactly. You're sort of
fatigue.
Exactly. It's like, yeah.
We are not easily impressed anymore. Have you noticed?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the bar has been raised. It's like
ChatGPT-5.
Exactly. It's like, yeah. It's
But did you talk about 4.5 already?
Yeah, but in very brief terms. But for one sense, in a sense, it's just one better model, better encoding, better in agentic, better in math and whatnot. But we see that all the time.
But I still think if jumping from 7 hours to 30 hours in a long-term task, is that even relevant? Or
I think perhaps that type of benchmark is interesting.
Yeah.
So if we speak about benchmarks in general, we can see, of course, AI is saturating one benchmark after the other, and it's really hard to come up with something that humans do that AI can't do better. And the human last exam and whatnot, and they are starting to saturate one more after the other. But this kind of measure,
this is the measure
benchmark is doing something else. It doesn't measure what the accuracy level is. It's trying to say, if it takes this long for a human to do something, how long would it take an AI to do it in some way? And then in the beginning of like GPT 3.5, it could do things that took humans like seconds to do. And then it started to do more and more advanced things. So now it's up to like 30 hours of doing things that would take humans even longer to do. So you measure progress instead in how long it can do things, or how advanced things, how long it would take humans to do something else.
I think it's a way to understand abstraction level that it's able to work on. Because if you give an instruction and then it can go effectively for 30 hours, that's a lot higher abstraction level of giving delegation than 7 minutes. So for me, this is. I think this is quite.
I think some of the media reporter on this did it wrong, as usual. They said, "Oh, it can reason for 30 hours." It's not hard to have something to reason for 30 minutes. It can do it really, really poorly and do it for days. That's not the point. I don't think that it reasons for 30 hours. It's that it can do things that takes humans a very long time to do.
Yeah, but and I'm looking at this. I work with this in enterprise setting and thinking about how do we adopt. Or how does it change organization? I mean, like the technology is there now, but think about it. When your mandate structures and your delegation structures is not in minutes or hours, but in months. I mean, like that's a completely different work environment, and it's a completely different leadership.
But once again, be clear. I mean, for a human, if they were to write your book, for example, or do the research you have done, which you spend months, if not years, to collect, right? It's not really the time it takes for the AI. It's the time it would take humans to do a similar thing. That's the big thing.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's you need to wrap your head around it. I don't want to go into the weeds of the details. I'm thinking about it a little bit like on the macro philosophical level. Now you need to start wrapping your head around what leadership means. I think that's we can go into very nitty-gritty details on how we define things, but if I zoom out, it tells us something about the trajectory of how to lead, how to organize work, which I think is super interesting, and I think is part of becoming data and AI ready, or like being able to reap the benefits of this. Then you need to put your delegation in accordance.
But it's also that it can reason better. I mean, it can, without having to ask a human, continue to do a number of tasks and continue to operate. So that, in some sense, I mean, it's really improving the reasoning skills, of course.
Is it the best now? I mean, like, forget about cursor, forget about everything. Now it's cloud sonnet.
I would love to see. I haven't seen a metric for the Arc AGI metric. I don't think it beats Grok 4 yet. No, but I'm not sure. I don't think so. So that's another tough metric.
Right, do we have any other ones?
Yeah, I have a number of ones. Do you have something you want to?
I mean, like, so I think we need to talk a little bit about the. I mean, like, there's a couple of news. One is more of the collaboration between Databricks and OpenAI. I think that we can take that later. If I'm just going to exhaust the technical ones, we have ChatGPT in shopping.
Yeah, that's an
because that's an interesting one, right? We're talking about what's the ads, what's the revenue model, so where we're going with this, and now together with Stripe, which is one of those, I guess, payment management stuff like this, like Klarna, but American. It's
a service that you can easily interact or integrate.
So bottom line is, you start, instead of doing search, and from the search going to a web page, you're writing with ChatGPT, like your perplexity. What's your favorite? Oh, I really like cowboy boots. What cowboy boots should I buy? And then you do search on that, and you get a couple of brands, and then those look nice. I want to buy them. And in the background, then agentically, it sort of together with Stripe goes out and purchase a pair of boots for you. So you never touch the Amazon web shop. You never touch. So this is quite interesting in terms of many dimensions of how to open up value streams or revenue streams. How can OpenAI make more money? Yeah. But it's also sort of showing, okay, this is a completely different ad space all of a sudden. All this stuff, right? So it's there, and and Goran's been sort of 6 months before the trajectory of anticipating this. It's happening now. What do you want to? I mean, like, Goran, you're the ones who comment this because this has been your pet peeve. Follow the money.
Yes, exactly. Follow the money. And now you have Meta now utilizing your prompt chats with Meta to sell you ads.
Yeah. So it's a variant of this. But how do we feel about shopping straight in ChatGPT? What do we think about that?
I think it feels very natural, but how does sort of the what is going to happen to all sort of everything sort of behind the interface, the chat interface? How is the AI going to find your boots? Of course, you have all these online shops, so that's one thing. But how do you if you run a cowboy boots online store, how do you make sure your boots end up in ChatGPT's? I don't know. I know nothing about that. How
the starting point is that they make a partnership with a brand called Etsy. So Etsy is a big web page or brand or sort of shopping site. And secondly, they make a central deal with Shopify. So Shopify is, the application that helps you build an e-commerce store in minutes. So all of a sudden you have 1 million Shopify stores. So all of a sudden it sort of drives, it's an interesting thing because it drives everybody, I should have built my e-commerce site in Shopify. Otherwise I'm not part of the OpenAI ChatGPT checkout. So I don't know. I mean, like, so you can imagine all these partnerships. I mean, like, it's a little bit like Spotify, creating all the partnerships with all the different major labels. Something similar happening here. Okay. But they're going for Shopify. They're not going for the single store. I think that's interesting, right? So that 1 million stores in one go.
Yep. This was also my pet peeve as well. For a year, I have been screaming about agent to agent instead of B2B and B2C. You will have B2C, B2B, A to B, A to C, and then you have A to A. And if you look at the screen there, you will see how it's going to go. So, for example, H&M, they will have their own logistic agent that understands what is actually in a supply and demand, what is in the warehouse, which sizes and everything else, right? So they will have their agent that is speaking with your agent. Now, your agent will also need to have access to your bank to check how much money you have, right? So that disrupts as well how we are right now purchasing things. Now the agent of H&M will have to speak with the agent of the logistics, let's say that this is PostNord, to order it, and when it's going to come to you and all of these other things. So it's basically, we're talking about every single company within 5 to 6 years, they will have agents that will talk with the other agents and your agents exactly.
Right.
But now the question is, which was the pet peeve, is like, if that is the case, why do we need to have web shops and websites in 5 to 10 years from now? So everything that we are seeing right now, in 5 to 10 years, it will change.
Right.
We don't know. We don't know where this is going.
Yes. But the beautiful thing about it is that this world is shaping right now, and you can actually be the first one to disrupt it. So the disruptors of 2015, the Ubers, the Netflix, and etc., are about to be disrupted. The Klarnas and Spotify's and everybody else, because it's a new way of working. It's A to A, A to B, A to C, and all these other things. So I think it's a very interesting future.
But and why we want to talk about it is that this is something you need to keep your eye on. I mean, like a large enterprise, or if you are you know, e-commerce, but even as our shopping behaviors will change, right?
Right.
So as an individual, as a consumer, I think it's also about what do we want.
Yeah.
You know, so we have an obligation to just not follow the herd if we think it's a bad idea. But you know, I use the word vote with your wallet. You know, so if some behaviors comes up here where they want to steer us in a certain direction, also I think that's why we as consumers needs to be aware and understand, to think about, you know, where do we put our money? Do we make it easier for them to go in this direction, or if we like it, yes. If we think it's fundamentally wrong in some way, so ethically or risky, or you know, I think it impacts the consumer, it impacts the value chain, and it impacts sort of big enterprises and startups to understand these mechanisms.
Fascinating.
Yeah, shopping coming to AI. So,
that's it. Yeah.
Cool. Perhaps one. Or do you have more?
No, I mean, like the Microsoft announcement as well. But
the vibe working thing? Or?
Vibe working? No. Nah. Boring.
But you know, in
or
some
maybe
sense,
say something.
Yeah,
say something about it. So we covered it.
Of course, we know AI working really well for coding. So vibe coding, like Lovable, but also when you have more of an engineering standpoint, like Cursor or Replit, that enables you to use AI to be extremely more efficient when it comes to coding. That's cool. Now this. What they called vibe working, what they mean, I mean something else, but they meant basically in Excel or in PowerPoint, you have the Copilot, of course, that now is getting a bit more agentic, and you can ask it to create content for you and do different visualizations and summarizations in Word and whatnot. So I think they are stealing a bit the real meaning of the word vibe working, because I mean something else, and they're stealing it.
But I think it's funny, because I think they're also diluting all the definitions themselves. They have Copilot, and I have Copilot I have Copilot in Excel mode. Isn't that a kind of agent? No. You have Copilot. I have agent mode, vibe working. You know, come on. It's bullshit bingo on a high level.
It feels like if Microsoft says it's vibe, it's not probably very, but it doesn't have much vibe, I think.
But do we understand the technical difference between the Copilot route and the vibe working route, and their definition of agents here? What's different?
I think in theory, if we speak about the vibe working kind of concept, I think that's very interesting to consider. Now, in this case, I mean, it's simply that it can create things, in the format that is Excel and PowerPoint, which is good for all the PowerPoint engineers and people working with that.
Did you do that with Copilot? What's different? Is it just a rebranding, or is it technically something else going on?
But it wasn't really good in creating things. I haven't tried this.
I haven't either. So maybe more embedded, integrated.
I mean, before it was good to understand what you had in it, but to really create things, it was really working well.
No.
I don't think it still works well, but I haven't tried it. So.
Anyway, let's leave it.
But I think, the point with this is really that we are seeing vibe coding going more and more general. Yeah. So for vibe coding, we can see it works well in terms of knowledge management, but it also works surprisingly well in terms of reasoning for coding purposes, and even agentic parts, meaning creating code and building things. But that is going to generalize more and more. So I think the idea of vibe working, when it really starts to move to what a human coworker can do as in working sense, that's going to be really cool. This is not really that, though.
Is that what you mean by vibe working?
Yes.
Okay.
So then it means level 1 to 3 in this kind of pyramid of OpenAI's.
So because it's literally the pyramid shows how we go up the abstraction levels. So you're not working on the task level, you're not even working on the reasoning level, you're working on the innovation level or organization level more.
Autonomous level at least.
Autonomous
perhaps.
level. I mean, like, so we are going in that trajectory, and vibe working would indicate that you were working one abstraction level higher or two higher than what we understand as work today.
Right. Okay.
So I'm sure we will see a lot of this kind of vibe working going better and better. But I haven't tried this, but I wouldn't say it's super.
Should we say something about the partnership, OpenAI, Databricks?
Well, I think that we are running out of time. I will do just a setup. We will talk about it next week. I have actually, I have been in a down rabbit hole about this imaginary money that are coming up. So now we can
circular economy has a new meaning.
But we will talk about it a little bit more. But it was a very interesting article by leave it now. It will come later. The name. Wall Street Journal, actually, about the AI bubble right now, because right now the bubble is getting bigger and bigger, and now we have blown AI initiatives that are valuable for a lot of money and all these other things. But it seems like the most of this money is actually coming because they need to support the Stargate, right? There is new data centers that needs to be installed. They started building it, and etc. And OpenAI needs more money to build the future revenue, right? So SoftBank give them a lot of money. NVIDIA was there, so Databricks and many others. So it's interesting. However, we will talk about it next week. However, this week I was super excited actually to try Sora.
Yeah, okay. That was my next one as well.
Yes,
okay.
but
I go there.
It's I cannot use it.
No.
Because it's not available in Europe.
Of course, as usual.
Right.
But I think what's cool with Sora then. Of course, it's better than generating videos and everything, and you can also have audio, similar to what VO3 from Google has been doing for some time. So in some sense, it's catching up to that. But what's really cool with Sora 2, which I don't think anyone else has, I think they call it the cameo feature, is basically a way to insert yourself into the video. But they need to have security on this, because if I can take you, Mathias, and put you in a video, I could easily have a lot of fake news here and a lot of manipulation. So they're trying to have a secure way to add yourself to videos so no one else can bring it into. So I think in short, you have to validate that you are the one you're saying, and then you have to look in the camera and you have to turn the face and do certain things, and then it's okay. It is really you. Now you're allowed to actually create a video with yourself.
Well, that's also a strong incentive to start using OpenAI then, because if you haven't done that, someone else can. Yeah, okay.
But it's interesting, they created the app for it, and now you will think like, well, that's cool. Why would you create an app?
But I think I can imagine for security reasons, actually. But still, what do you think?
I think it is basically they want to be a little bit closer to the new generation, because they want to create new generation of users. So because right now they have reached their capacity right now, right? And it's like the Tableau moment. You remember how Tableau beat Click and everybody else? They went to the students and give them tutorials about how to use Tableau. So if you want to generate the next generation of users, you need to supply the demand. You need to create the demand. And just with this, it's so instantaneous.
I think that's the key thing also.
What's the point with the app then? I mean,
the app so my kids, right? They use apps all the time. They have face swaps and all of these other things.
But why couldn't they use a web service for it?
My daughter,
I think they want
to a web service. Are you insane?
Exactly. I think, and I don't think it's only. I don't think it's only younger people they want to reach. It's the people who don't use ChatGPT now because it's whatever it is, But if there's a cool new app that you can make fun videos with, that's great, and that could be sort of the
entry point
to ChatGPT. It's like, there's a lot behind this, and so I think that's the thing.
The normal web interface doesn't really have the functionality nor the security. That is my guess why they need to have a separate app and not being able to have it in the normal.
So the practical reason as well.
Yeah. Be ready. Yeah. Anyway, cool stuff. And,
anyway,
back to the story, and perhaps we should. I'd love to hear a bit more, Mathias, about your work with the Swedish AI Commission.
Exactly.
Perhaps you can just give a short introduction to how you got into that work and what you were doing there.
Yeah. No, so it's the model here in Sweden is, of course, to appoint some people to come up with proposals for things, and actually that's part of the law here, that you have to prepare proposals that way. Not always in a report like this, but anyways, that's sort of the background. Another background is that in the 90s we had very successful IT commissions. The first one in 1994. We had the former Prime Minister, then Carl Bildt, as chairman, and they just worked for a few months, but they delivered an extremely visionary report back then. Talked about how IT then could sort of give wings of freedom to people and all that. You can just replace IT with AI, and you can use that. So that could have been an even shorter work for us. But also that the second IT commission in 97 or 98 or something like that came up with the home PC reform, so subsidized home personal computers for people. That had a pretty big effect. So that's sort of the background of these kind of commissions. So now the government wanted an AI commission, and I guess I became part of it both because I have a political background. There were no other people on that commission that had that, but also that, of course, now I write and do a lot of things with AI and sort of represent the media perspective a little bit. So we were like 10 people on the commission, and then had an expert group tied to that, or expert group, but a group of other people. So our task was super broad, to come up with proposals to use AI to strengthen Swedish competitiveness. That was the thing. Yeah. And we could do anything except we could go into any area except one. School education.
That's so crazy.
Or actually, education was fine if it was university, but smaller children, no AI here. That's going to be very, very bad.
Very interesting. Oh, that's a rabbit hole in itself. Please go back.
Yeah. So we started meeting a lot of different people representing different parts of, like I said before, part of society, and we very soon realized, okay, we had 18 months. 18 months in AI time is, I don't know, 18 years or something. So we realized, okay, that's one problem, but the other problem was that what we talked about before, that people are waiting for the commission, waiting for that. So we said, okay, we want to deliver this after halftime. And we did. We wrote 75 different proposals. The idea was to mostly do proposals that didn't need much legwork after that. You can put money or decide to do this and get rolling pretty quickly with many of the things. And also there was a lot of speculation that they're gonna want gazillion dollars or kronor for this, but we said also we want to pick the low-hanging fruits here. There's a lot of things we could do, a lot of areas we could dive deeper into, but we want to serve the politicians with a strategy and especially a lot of proposals they could start doing quickly, since we are lagging behind. So that's what we did.
Cool. So you got this directions from the government that excluded some part, but otherwise you could do whatever, and you came up with a very nicely written report, I must say. And I guess you interviewed like hundreds of people or something. Or I
think it was 150 different organizations, so trying to cover all of society through organizations.
Yeah.
So
you, from the inside, what are you most proud of in terms of how you went about and what came out of the report, and what you think, this we could have done a little bit better, or this one we didn't really do as to the ambition level we had?
I think the part I liked the most was that we both wrote about that that AI now is for everyone, and I think that's a key message from the government, because most people don't know that AI is for everyone. That's why they need Sora as an app, because you're using AI, am I? Like, yeah, cool, and you can do other things as well. So that was important, but also that what we call the AI for all reform, which was heavily inspired by the home PC reform. So getting people to use these AI tools for free, the paid versions, the pro versions, use them for free for a while, for 6 months or 12 months or something like that. So both send the message then, this is for everyone, and everyone can get access to this now. You don't have to pay at first, but you should really use the paid versions, because they are much better, and you should use them much more. So then you need the paid versions to get people on board there. And I think that would have sent a strong message to Swedes, but also a strong message internationally that okay, this is a country that does this differently. They say everyone should have access to these tools, and so.
And we see other countries that gone down that route. This is happening in Middle East.
Yes, exactly, and I saw that UK is at least thinking about it or discussing this with OpenAI. I didn't want just one, not just ChatGPT or not just Gemini or Copilot, but many of these tools. So you can and it would be a very nice platform for Swedish companies to launch AI tools. Because suddenly there was some sort of platform that hundreds of thousands of Swedes could use. So I think it would be helpful in many different ways. So that was the part that I work with the most, and I liked the most about
and any things you think, we missed on this, or this was a blind spot in the report, or this I think was stepmotherly, styvmoderligt behandlad?
I think in general there's a lot of things that we could have gone more sort of in depth to, thought about more and think, but time wise,
that's good.
I think also maybe the people in the commission, it was kind of amazing how there's a lot of people with strong opinions, and who usually the CEO of Ericsson and Volvo, they lead companies with 100,000 people each, and many people like that in the commission, and we really worked well as a group in some way. Anyway, so that was good. But I think we really would have benefited to having people from a few other types of people. Maybe someone from the startup world, maybe someone from something completely different, an artist or whatever. So there was a lot of big, big authorities, big companies, and they were great, but they have their perspective. So I think we could have used others' perspective. It's not something I can say, we could have, it would have been better because we would have that perspective, because I don't know. But if we would have a couple of people from completely different, for much smaller settings, I think that would have been overall useful.
But if people just want to have an understanding of what the report really contained, I think you should be so proud of that, and all the concrete 75 proposal that you did include, right? But you also had, which I think is super hard, some kind of monetary kind of estimate for what the budget should be to actually do that, right? Mm-hmm. How did you come up with that kind of number for the budgets for it as well?
I don't know really. No, we had a staff of people who that's what they do. They try to sometimes some of the numbers are more like, okay, we don't really know. There's no way of figuring out the perfect number. It's probably 50 million, around that. Some numbers are like that. Some numbers are really more calculated and really try to think things through. So that was really the staff trying to find, and we, of course, we had to sort of try to prioritize. But everyone said that, okay, we shouldn't do we're not going to propose, Sweden spend 100 billion Swedish kronor on data centers or whatever. It's like we could have said that, but it's not. Yeah,
but there are two things I think you did really well. Just the fact that you went to a point of putting a number there, for me is more like how you budget with T-shirt sizes. It gives an indication on the ambition level that you need in order to start something, and which is, I think, is fairly realistic. And I think it's in the end, what is the strategy without money behind it? So therefore, to actually push that into the proposal, I think, was a very, very good move. Even if and I don't give a shit if it's 30% off or something like that. It's the fundamental point of view, and where I'm a little bit like, I'm more happy to see money in the budget than I am to see a written strategy document.
Yeah.
So that I need to, that we applaud very much.
So what didn't you like, or what should have been in the report that wasn't?
I mean, like, we can do it together, but we've had several guests now. I mean, like, we've had 160 guests, and we have our own, I think, understanding of this. And if I'm looking at the profile, you are onto this already. The profile of who is in the commission is either the big CEO or is academia, researchers of different kinds, or public sector.
Yep.
What I think is the biggest missing point, if I'm used to looking at Silicon Valley, is the hardcore product and engineering perspective. So if I think about it, I mean, like, we had Sverker Jansson here, head of RISE, AI Center of Excellence, and he said it so well on the pod that, and we see it now with Lovable, the second generation startups in AI. It's this whole engine that spews out great data and AI engineers that know what great looks like, and what does it take to build that. So it means, like, I was missing sort of maybe some key super senior engineers at Spotify or Klarna or something like that. Yep. Which is sort of, I mean, they may be represented in the commission, but it's not the engineering folks. So if you look at the funding and the storytelling on the proposal, it kind of follows, we need more PhD, we need more AI research.
Yep.
Do we really? Or do we need vastly a lot more AI engineers? Can we vibe code us out of this? I don't think so. So that is sort of my main blind spot, there, where we're not really picking apart one of the main success factors of Silicon Valley, and looking at, how are we doing here?
Yeah.
That's the one. That's the main one.
No, and I think you're absolutely right. And like I said, I think it would have benefited from people from completely different,
there's a limit, of course. There's a limit.
Exactly, and also it runs into a political problem, that you have a list of sort of different categories. You have male, female, of course, but also you have different parts of the country. You have to represent different part of public sector, and it's like, so you have to find. So it's almost,
and now we're 100.
It's AGI levels to solve this puzzle. so yeah.
Anders, what were you? We liked it. I mean, like, first of all, we really liked it. So this is actually not a critique. It's more about trying to what's the blind spots, and what would you say, Anders?
Yeah, but we can really, and given the people that were in the commission and the people that spoke to you, can really, I can see who wrote what, and so to speak. So it's kind of easy to identify. And of course, the focus on more research is something that I don't think is perhaps what we need the most. We already have so much investments in terms from Wallenberg and many other places in terms of AI research. That's really good, and we should have it. I have a research background. But what I'm lacking is the engineering part.
Yeah.
If you look at what the big tech companies are doing, they perhaps spend like X number of dollars on R&D work, but then they at least spend 10 or even 100 times more on the engineering part. And that I'm strongly lacking. And if we don't have that and really have this kind of product mindset, or really the mindset of how can we find true value, then it will be a lot loss here. So just to give an example, there is a number of, if you just invest in a data center and say, we can train this amazing model here. Yeah, great. But how can we deliver and deploy the application on it? It doesn't speak about the application. It's a lot of focus on training some model, but not on really delivering the product. And even today, and this is not on the Commission report, but really in general from Europe and Sweden, it's so much work on having a data center that can train a model, but not really on serving it, or even more so, how to actually deploy an application. Imagine if you had a data center just for training a model, and then you have to serve it somewhere else, and then you have an application, and you have to serve that somewhere else as well, on Kubernetes, and all these kind of other services. That would never work. That's why you have HPC clusters that you can't even give away compute on, because it's not working from an engineering point of view. So that's a bit a shame. The other part, and I'm going into a rant mode. It's not really a shame on the Commission. This is more in general, so to speak, because I think still the Commission did amazing work with the report. It's really good, so don't take it personally. But I think in general, we need to have a strategy of how Sweden can quickly find value from AI. Now, there is a lot of, given the Trump kind of era here with the tariffs coming in, that, we need sovereignty in Sweden and Europe. Okay, yeah, of course we do. We would love to have that, but in reality, we don't. We don't have a viable alternative to the big cloud providers today. So although I wish and I hope that we will start to build a kind of long-term objective of having an alternative to them, but that will take many, many years to achieve. So then we need to have compromise meanwhile.
A two-pronged strategy. We need a short-term strategy to suck out what we can do with still relying on them.
No, but there are a number of alternatives. Even the big hyperscalers have this kind of hybrid mode where you can run the tech stack, on your own machines. That's not a problem. But we need to have this kind of reference architecture. I can go into much deeper details here, but I shouldn't. The point is really we need to think what really delivers value for society and our corporations in Sweden.
In the context we are in.
We can't wait 5 years for that. We need to have it today. And then you have to have a realistic look in what is necessary to make that happen. And that I'm missing.
Yeah. And here you kind of see how those two dimensions tie together. Because that's not a research question, it's a hardcore engineering question. What tools to use, what tool stacks to use, how to build something technology agnostic as far as possible, etc., etc. Which is sort of not. This is more than applied research. It's product. And I mean, so.
I even spoke to Rice recently. I mean, we have the big Invest AI program from European Commission, and that was, it's 200 billion euros and 20 billion just on data centers. And if they don't think about this in this way and then continue in the normal way, it will be useless as previous investments has been. So I'm a bit, but still, I have hope, and I think with your help and others, we can bring value first.
Just to not be bottom line, I think the Commission report ticks the right boxes in terms of what it has, but we are missing boxes. And when you're adding some boxes, you need to rebalance across the boxes.
Right.
So we need research, we need talent, all this that is mentioned, all the 75 proposals are important. I think there are like 10 different proposals that should have been in there and that are higher up on the agenda than some others.
Yeah. No, and just you saying this now, it would have been super interesting to hear this conversation in the Commission, because there were no, real pushback against, education or
and we're not pushing back, it's just simply balance.
yeah exactly, but sort of having is this really the right priority, or should it be more like this, or could we have both, or so yeah,
and that's back to the diversity of the room.
Yeah. And then you also want someone like I said, who has a completely different, like engineering. Well, what we need that for? We need poetry or whatever. It's like, okay.
Philosophy also first now.
No, but the biggest problem that most companies have, and why they're failing to find value from AI, is they get stuck in prototypes, right? It's super easy to build a model that do some kind of prototype, but it's such a big difference to do a proper product. And that is what's missing still, I would say.
Anyway,
okay,
that's our rant.
Yeah. So still, Mathias, such a great work with the Commission. So applaud you for that.
Thank you.
Let's get a bit more philosophical, perhaps. And we're starting to run away on time here, so I'm going to skip a number of potential topics that we were considering. But if we do think more from a societal point of view, and we know AI is going to make a lot of changes to the workforce, to our educational system, etc. Do you have kids, by the way? Or?
Yeah, one son. He's 4.
What would you recommend him to learn and educate in today?
I think whatever he's interested in, because it's going to be even easier to, I don't know, make a living or do something, whatever that is, because the world is constantly opening up with the internet, of course, but that's just the start of it. So you're more and more, you're adding more different types of skills. You can learn skills as a human, but you can add more skills to it, and you have a bigger audience, whatever that is. and maybe it's not something you have an audience, but it's a community or whatever. It's something where you can do something that is something that you really like. And I think and this is of course nothing unique for this time, but my task as his father is trying to show him all these different worlds, and for me it already helps with AI, because like I said before, I can't sing or make any music or whatever, so I can't show him that world of music. I can show him, we can play music for him and we can take him to concerts or whatever, these kind of things, but I can't make music with him. But suddenly I can, at least to a certain point. So we've made songs together now. So one song about his teachers at preschool and all the kids in the preschool, and it's a really good song actually, and with all the names, and he added the names, and we sort of, who's more there? It's Fredrik and it's Hedda and all them, and now he hears music, and I can just go to myself. Now when I've started creating music like this, it's very simple music, but it's made me a little bit more interested in how do you actually make good music. I don't know nothing about that, but suddenly I'm a little bit interested in to actually read a book maybe, because that's my way of learning, reading a book about how do you make music, so I can use AI to make a little bit better music. So it helps me as a father to show him more parts, and maybe that will make him interested in learning to play the guitar, to play the song that he, created. And that could be done for, a number of different things, so he could choose, or have as many options as possible.
But one thing you're saying here is that in the new world, try to figure out your passions as part of your focus in order to get good at it, and because there is no limits. If you have a passion, you can use tools and be really, really good at it if you're creative and putting in the hours.
Exactly.
So then it's back to the 10,000, you need to focus on stuff that you're willing to really put your hours in and be passionate about.
And that's easier than before. It's less of you have to go to a factory to make money and you hate it, but you have to, because you have to pay rent and buy food and things. And that's of course going to be part of life in the next decades as well. But it could be more and more your passion, whatever that is. It's going to be a bigger opportunity to do more with your passion.
So with your passion, becoming really good at it, and then you can most likely carve out a career somewhere.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
It's at least easier, or not as hard as before. It's not easy probably, but you still have to put an effort into. But you can discover more of the world, what it is, and hopefully be better at finding whatever your thing is, and then the chance of actually doing that for a living, or
what do you think about the educational system then that we do have? I mean, he has to make some choices in whatever he chooses to educate himself in. And some people are arguing that we don't need perhaps this kind of long-term educational systems, and getting a degree in whatever perhaps isn't as useful. And others saying the opposite. What do you think? How is the best way for kids these days to prepare for the future of tomorrow?
I think, there might be ideas out there there are many ideas of a better education system, but at least I think the idea of a school and an education you go to is pretty good. Then that school needs to change a lot in how we teach kids, and that was actually my original plan, was to become a teacher. And how you use these tools in education, that could also change a lot. But I still think it feels like a good idea to learn a lot of different things and then specialize a bit, because that will help you interact with all the machines and everything. And you can use the machines to learn, and so it's merging of things. But I still like the idea of
the fundamental idea of an education system is still sound, or we can't really fault
but
it. But then it needs reform. That's another.
Exactly.
So it's not throwing out the baby with the bathwater here.
No, exactly. Don't school is still a good, and education is still a good idea, I think. But also there's a path, especially in higher education, that if you don't want to do that, there's many other paths. You don't have to go to that university if you don't want to. You can choose many other different paths. But also, school and education for me is not just learning topics. It's being part of a social system and learning to interact, having fun, and all these things. Learning to be a grown-up that has nothing to do with whatever you're studying.
But how would you frame the societal challenges with the education as it is today? Not solving it, but trying to put a finger on what we need to fix or work on.
It still feels like it's very much one size fits all. And we already have tools to make it more individual, but with AI, we can at least approach the holy grail of education, that you can actually individualize it very much just for you, because how you learn and how do you learn, not just in general, but this week, it adapts. And I think one key thing, maybe the key thing in education and as a teacher, is to get the students to understand that they actually learn things. So they say, more things this week than you did last week. Because when I worked as a teacher, I took over some 8th graders, and there were two kids in that they were, and they got grades for the first time at Christmas. Then the first time was in 8th grade, and for Christmas they got their grades, and they hadn't learned much. So I had to fail them. I had to give them failed grades. And they were really shocked, like, what? What the hell? It's like, what? We thought we knew these things. Like, no, sorry, you don't. And then they started to make a real effort to learn things, but they were far behind, So when they in 9th grade, when they left högstadiet, they had learned a lot in these 18 months, but they hadn't learned enough, so they were failed again. In their minds, they were failures. They hadn't learned anything. They sucked. We can't learn.
But you saw the progress. But
yes, I saw the progress, and I tried to tell them, but they didn't understand it. And if you interact constantly with a computer that way, it could help you understand that you actually learn things. You're not stupid. You learn things, and it can adapt the way to your ways of learning, so you can learn more, of course.
Because it can be that, we need to shift the curricula, we need to have freedom, so you can study whatever you want. Okay, that's far out there. We can back the tape up to basically, it's the same curricula for all, but we have individualized learning, because we learn differently. Yeah. And I have a good anecdote with my 17-year-old, who basically... it's the simple thing when someone changes a teacher, and that teacher all of a sudden, I'm struggling with math, I don't get it. And it's a simple path of another communication style, another person who's better to meet him where he's at and lift him from where he's at, which to me is a very simple observation highlighting that, oh my God, if we could figure out the learning pace optimized and the learning style optimized for each child. Wow.
Yeah. And we do that in computer games, for example. We're really good at giving you feedback all the time, how good or bad you are
with
at something.
existing techniques even.
Yeah, so it's not that complicated. AI now makes it easier or even better and more adaptable, and but the basic, I don't mean to gamify everything, but the basic idea there of giving you constant feedback or giving you feedback that you can understand. And so I think the key thing is to get students to understand that they actually can learn things. I remember back when I was in school, there was a kid, the kid, he was a real troublemaker, skipped school all the time, hit people, the type. And he thought he was stupid, and everyone else thought he was stupid because he didn't learn anything. He failed every class. But he knew every car brand. He knew every car, everything. A car drove past. He knew what year, what kind of engine, whatever. He learned everything about it. So he wasn't stupid. It was that these things they learned him in school, he didn't want to learn for different reasons. Maybe not, it wasn't the school's problem, it was probably his parents or something. But still, he wasn't stupid. If you could get him to understand, because he probably thought he was stupid, but he wasn't. If you could get him to understand, you're not stupid. You can really learn things. That would probably help him. And AI won't solve that like that, of course not. But
But we can see how technologies here can make a huge difference applied correctly.
Yeah.
So you are more positive or the negative when AI comes into the educational systems?
In Sweden, I don't know. It feels like we're going in the opposite direction. So I don't know. But over time, I hope Jan Stenbeck is right that tech beats politics, and there's a lot of teachers out there that understands this, and as long as they don't forbid that, but I wouldn't, there's an election coming up.
There certainly are universities that forbid use of AI.
Exactly. So, and the politicians could, there could be in the next election, some party. Maybe the one I was part of will say, we're going to forbid whatever. They're already forbidding smartphones. So,
out of it, and
exactly.
It's terrible.
Yeah, weird thing.
So I'm not that optimistic about that.
So you want to see it, but you're not optimistic of how it will play out in Sweden.
No, it's
a weird. I've been following a little bit. We had Anders Engström here. Do you know Anders?
Yeah,
amazing guy, and he is. I'm not even sure if he's an angry optimist. He's an angry optimist.
He's angry.
He's fucking angry with the bullshit going on.
Yeah.
And he has a pretty good eye on spotting it and talking about it.
Mathias, let's go for an even more philosophical question. And of course, you mentioned AGI a number of times. Do you believe AGI will come? And if so, when potentially?
Yes, absolutely. I don't think there's... as long as everything can be solved, as long as it doesn't break the laws of physics, and I don't think AGI will break any laws of physics, but I don't think it's around the corner. And for me, AGI is I'm sort of I like the David Deutsch version of AGI. That's an AI with its own mind, its own opinions. So it's not the AI that does what you tell it to do. It could do what you ask it to do if it wants to. Like you can ask me. So there's the same sort of mind that a human has that with that it can decide to do things on its own. That for me is true artificial general intelligence, and I don't think.
Is it 2, 5, 10, 50 years?
I don't know, but it's not the next 10 at least. I don't think that it's way more.
You're sharpening the definition quite a bit when you say it like that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not just something that's. It feels like the definition is constantly changing, and the bar is lowered because everyone wants to reach AGI first. So they lower the bar. Of course, they make better and better AIs, but they also lower the bar so they can meet here and say, "Hey, we have AGI." It's like, no, that's not what I think is AGI. So
I'm quite intrigued with your definition. It's an interesting one.
Okay, but at some point it will come.
Yeah.
And then we can imagine the world is playing out in one direction or the other. And if we were to imagine the two extremes, where one is the dystopian one, where AI will turn into the Terminator and the Matrix movies and the machines are trying to kill us all. And the other extreme, of course, is the utopian version, where instead AI have solved cancer and fixed the energy crisis and have educational systems that makes humans superior to any kind of human beings that we have today. And perhaps we have a world of abundance, as Elon and others call it. Where do you think we'll end up in this kind of spectrum?
I think definitely more to the utopia side, but I don't think it will be an utopia, because there's so many things that, and that's one of the things I warn about in the book, that even though I think this is such a breakthrough, it will lead to the largest acceleration of human progress ever, or so far. I think we should not believe it's going to solve all our problems, because many of these problems are not problems that technology can solve. It can help us solve many problems, or cancer, things like that. That kind of research, that's perfect for an AI to solve these kind of problems. But for example, poverty or starvation, that's not a problem that technology can solve. We have all the food we need already. We have all the money we need. We have all the technology to get the food to people. But for some reason, we don't do that. And that's mostly because those people don't live in democracy. So their leaders don't give a shit if they eat enough. And so the problem there is not logistics or anything like that. It's democracy, of lack of democracy. So an AI is not going to solve that. AI could help resistance movements and democracy movements to overthrow dictators, but of course dictators are also pretty tech savvy, unfortunately. So I think there's a lot of problems in the world that technology in itself can't solve, or humans with technology can't solve. So that's really up to us, and of course using technology in that, but it's up to us to solve these. But it will help us solve many problems, and especially help us create abundance of many things, I think, which is of course very helpful.
I'd like to just iterate on what you said a bit before, which is you quoted someone saying that tech will decentralize power in some way.
Yeah.
And just to argue on that point a bit, I mean, I think today we're seeing a bit of a rather large concentration of power, especially into the Elon companies of the world and some of the tech companies that are, of course, creating immense wealth and having more and more power. Are we really seeing a decentralization of power now with AI, you think, or will it do that perhaps in the future?
I think so. Of course, you're absolutely right. They are also, the Elons and those companies of the world are getting very, very, very powerful. But at the same time, it seems like, for example, language models is not something unique that just a few companies will be able to create. You and I and everyone else will have their own, if we want to, their own language models that are very powerful. Maybe not as powerful as the best ones, but they're going to be really good. That gives you a lot of power. So even if in some ways power is concentrating to companies and people, I think the overall effect is that everyone is getting more powerful and more wealthy. And if you look at these numbers for the world is getting more and more equal economically. But we get a skewed view of that because we see some people that are richer than ever before, and they are, but everyone else is also richer.
It's not a zero-sum game, right?
Exactly.
Because some people are getting richer doesn't mean others get poorer.
No, exactly. You don't lose money just because Elon gains another 100 billion.
But these statistics are so hard to penetrate and understand this, because if you look at if you can, there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. Yeah, Israeli. I mean, like it's you can look at the GDP of US, and you can see that the inequalities in terms of how much wealth is with the few compared to the rest. If you follow that line of analysis, you get to the divide is growing, right? But then I think what Rosling was one of the pioneers doing is looking at the real macro data in zooming out even further. And then you could see, okay, inequalities has risen, but at the same time, the whole world is at a different pace. And she could show how we all have a very skewed way of Africa as an example, right? So I'm getting you what you're saying here, but it's, when you say now it's getting, we are democratizing power. No, we're not. It's the knee-jerk reaction because we are looking at it from one lens. But if you look at the fifth acceleration lens, I get it.
Yeah,
we're actually raising the bar across.
And of course, some countries' inequality, economic inequality is increasing, but mostly in poor countries, they're already poor. Those are the ones who are really unequal. They have one, or they have 10 people, as they have 90% of everything in the country, and the rest have to share the rest. But in most countries like the US, you can get different small shifts in that. But overall in the world, if you look at nations, we're getting more equal. The poor countries are getting richer much faster than the rich countries. But also if you look in those countries, people are also getting more equal economically. So the poorer people in those countries are getting richer. And the rich are also getting richer, but in less speed. So it's evening out. By no means a perfect world, but it's getting a little bit better.
But here we could have a huge debate on this, and depending on which stats we're looking at, I could prove the opposite of what you said now. So
no, I don't think so.
That's a challenge.
I don't have the data to back it up, but I mean, like there is the inequality conversation going on in US, and when you look at how big percentage of the GDP is now with 10%, and if you look at that curve, if you follow exactly that statistic, it goes in the wrong direction. That particular statistic.
It sounds like a perfect discussion topic to continue having here, and I also love to discuss that a bit more. And I'm positive in the terms that I do agree that for most people it will be a very positive change where you will have more availability to products and services and wealth in some way. But I am concerned with the concentration of power that is happening to the very few. And that is that's a bit scary as well.
And then we can all agree upon it. All accelerations like this will have a bumpy ride for society.
Yes, absolutely.
That's something also we can see.
And also, it's not automatic. It doesn't just happen because we think it will. We will have to do that, and that's why I want so many people to be part of this, because I'm also concerned with not from a sort of a societal level based on that. But I'm concerned that a few people have too much power.
Like too much influence on the story here.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And different kind of economical power and different kind of power, and the empire that is under Mark Zuckerberg. He seems okay, but he's no matter how okay you are as a person, you should have that much power, I think. Yeah. So, and that is a problem. But I think then at the same time, the tools many of these people are making money from, at the same time, that's making us more powerful. Even though I don't have, as much money as Mark Zuckerberg.
I think it's a good summary. It makes some people very, very powerful here in a way that could be troublesome, but it's also making all of us more powerful if we choose to tap into it.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to be part of this. Otherwise, they will gain more and more power, and suddenly and eventually that will turn bad. Because if you concentrate power, that's the worst thing in the world, wherever it is concentrated.
The fundamental idea of democracy is to engage and participate.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
That's the same thing here, exactly. But in this case, not just go vote or be engaged in politics. You should absolutely be that. But now we have these tools that we could do so much more with. We could become more powerful if we use these tools, and that's what I want people to do.
By using that's a better them, we understand them better, and therefore we can voice our concerns or what AI for good
something.
is.
If you don't
have a clue what it is, how can we define AI for good even?
Exactly. If you don't like the social media empire of Mark Zuckerberg, you actually have a better chance than ever before to create something other. It's not easy, of course, but the chance is better than ever before.
But I think, to end on a positive note here, I think what Sam Altman is saying, that there has never been a better time to create a startup or to actually, take actions today. And if you actually do make use of AI, you have better opportunities than ever possible before right now. And the worst thing I think you can do is to try to avoid using AI. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. Just sitting here around waiting, or that's the really bad outcome if just a few people.
Because then they get the power that we didn't want them to get.
Yeah.
Because we let them.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really up to us to.
Up to us.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Thank you so much, Mathias Sundin, for coming here. So many interesting discussions, and I have a lot more topics that I'd love to hear from you. So I hope you can stay on for some after work discussions as well. But thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. So much fun.